The purpose of this short video is to show, demonstrate, and display that custom programming, software development using the Tekla Open API can perform so many useful tasks in Tekla structures that's useful to the fabricator, to the detailer, to the project manager, to so many people that are involved with structural steel projects. Now, this particular demonstration is going to show how custom programming can create useful tools such as checking for correct hole gauges. And the reason that the app was developed is that on this particular real project, it's 1,000 feet long, 400 feet wide, we actually did run into a problem on this end of the building with the bolts that bolt the joist down to the beams. And checking at the first stage of the project had noticed that the detailer had used an incorrect hole gauge, and so that was corrected through the whole project. Everything was corrected. We had noticed it. It was corrected. Drawings were developed. All the checking was done, and the fabrication drawings were printed, NC files distributed, everything was done, but where it went wrong is that the the holes were supposed to be 102 millimeters apart, like they are here, but somebody had nudged the components, and some of the holes had changed location. I'll give you an example if I can. Yeah. So these ones are 70 millimeters, and that's wrong. But they work right to begin with. But somebody had nudged the component. Now, that's where it's really bad to do manual adjustments to things like bolts, because all somebody has to do is nudge the component. Some small thing happens, and the component refreshes, and the bolts revert back to their to the dimensions called out in the component, and that was wrong, and so there was a mistake, and these joists had to be welded down instead of bolted down. So how can we prevent that from happening? Well, there is a way to do that, and we've created an app here that can check for hole gauges. So I'll just bring the app in. The app can check for hole gauges according to a set size. So the holes bolting the joist down to the beams are 12 millimeters, and the gauge is supposed to be 102 millimeters. And we're just going to select the parts here. Now I'm going to select these parts in the model. There, the parts that we want to check are selected. I'm going to select a few more here. We know these ones are good, but fits onto the screen anyway. And I'm just going to run the custom application, and it's going to start doing its work. You can see here now that in the notification section of your Tekla window, there's just an update saying that the program is checking for mismatched hole gauges on selected hole sizes. So it's going to do this job, and when it's done, it's going to create a it's going to go to the drawings list and highlight the drawings that have the incorrect hole sizes. So and it takes a little while. It's not taking very long. Please remember to check out our different apps. We can display so many more on our website, tekladeveloper.com. And I want to emphasize that these apps are very inexpensive. They're with almost without exception, they would pay for themselves the first time they're used, and after that, you're just money ahead. Um, the apps are useful, not only for modeling and speeding up modeling, but as we're pointing out here, for checking and for performing repetitive tasks, things that take time, and of course the goal is that we provide the kind of service that fabricators need in an industry that is cost driven, time driven, and that's compelling in the structural steel industry. If a person resists um, cost or doesn't pay attention to the time constraints, um, it's hard to keep up. So I'll just pause the video now until it's just about finished. Okay, the app has just about finished its work now, and it's going to find some mistakes, there's no doubt about it. So here is the notification warning: mismatched hole gauges have been found and affected parts have been selected in the model. Now the way it works is that it selects them in the drawings list, and so these are all the beams that it found in the selected options that we had that had an incorrect hole gauge. So I'm just going to go and correct those hole gauges, and then we're going to run the app again. Okay, I've restarted the video again, and I have I have corrected the hole gauges for those bolts that are bolting the joist down to the beam along the ascend grid line. And I'm going to run the checking app here again, and it's the same thing. It's a 12.9 millimeter hole. The gauge should be 102. We're just going to do the selected ones, the ones I've selected here, and I'm just going to start it, and it'll do its work again. Once again, the message has been updated, checking for mismatched holes. So it's working inside of the Tekla model. These apps can be external EXEs, executable files, as this one is, or they can be plugins. We have a lot of apps running here ourselves. We tend to leave them as separate executable files because it just gets to be a lot to have in the program, but they can be a plugin or they can be a separate outside executable file. I'll just pause the video again while it does its work. Okay, it's almost done its work. We still have a message here saying it's checking for mismatched hole gauges on the selected hole sizes. And here it's done, and here's the message bar. This time no mismatched hole gauges were found, so it's all okay. This is it doesn't seem like a very big thing, but this is another way of checking done by a computer, and it's an option that's very affordable. We like to say that with any of these tools, anything that you can do with computerized software compared to somebody doing the job manually, the person that's equipped with the software will have the lowest costs in the world. It isn't possible, no matter how cheap your labor is, unless the labor costs nothing, really zero. Unless the labor costs zero, the software application can always do the job cheaper and quicker and most likely more accurately, and that's the end goal, is to give you the lowest cost in the world. We think that our tools give the North American detailer an advantage But anyway, that's one example of how custom designed applications using the Tekla Open API can be used to accomplish all sorts of tasks. This is just one, but it's not just an example. This is a very useful working tool. Thanks.